You know what the greatest feeling in the world is? Making plans only to cancel them at the last second.
I hope they didn't break.
And that's a love that I share with good old Game Freak, who's been canceling special events in Pokemon games for quite some time. So good morning everybody, good morning, it's JPR, and today we're talking about some of the biggest unreleased events in Pokemon history. The first one on this list is rather well known among older fans, the GS Ball event. Pokemon Crystal was the very first title in the franchise capable of connecting to the internet and receiving bonus content, but only in Japan, where a peripheral device was released known as the Mobile Phone System GB. See, in the late 90s and early 2000s, Japan was a bit ahead of the curve when it came to mobile technology. Kinda like how they are today with bidets and heated toilet seats. And so this peripheral would plug into your Game Boy and connect it with a wire to your cellular device, allowing your game to connect to the internet. This unlocked a plethora of new features exclusive to the Japanese version of Pokemon Crystal, including the Goldenrod Communications Center, which acted as the predecessor to Diamond & Pearl's global trade station. You know, that place where scumbags put their definitely legit shiny Giratina up for trade for an Articuno level 9 and under just for laughs. But beyond wireless trading, this feature also allowed players to download the GS Ball to their game, take it to Ilex Forest, and capture the mythical Pokemon Celebi. But because mobile phone infrastructure wasn't nearly as good overseas as it was in Japan, Nintendo could never find a reason to release the Mobile System GB internationally. And so, the Celebi event went completely unreleased in non-Japanese versions of the game, along with the Goldenrod Trade Center. The Virtual Console re-release of Pokemon Crystal would fix this to a degree, allowing international players to finally obtain the GS Ball and capture Celebi, although the Goldenrod Pokemon Center still appears exactly the same as it does in the English version of Pokemon Crystal. This was the start of a Celebi curse of sorts, however, as in 2003 another Celebi would bite the dust in North America. Pokemon Colosseum was a very interesting spin-off title. Unlike most spin-offs, Colosseum was one of the few to have connectivity to the core series games, so you could transfer purified Shadow Pokemon to Ruby and Sapphire, somewhat making up for Hoenn not including many old Kanto and Johto Pokemon, because rather than put all the Pokemon in one game, we could sell them another game for $40. One of these Pokemon that was meant to be transferable was the Agate Village Celebi, which came on the Japanese bonus disc for Colosseum. The bonus disc was only included in copies of the game that were pre-ordered, however, so not every Japanese player got this Celebi. In America, we did actually get the bonus disc, depending on where you pre-ordered the game. I was 5 years old and didn't have access to this information, so my copy of the game came with a Jirachi card instead. Yay. For those who did get the bonus disc, you would have gotten an actual Jirachi to transfer to Ruby and Sapphire, and the disc contained a preview of the new movie Jirachi Wishmaker. Dang, saying that makes me feel old. And what the disc didn't tell you is that connecting your GBA to it will also patch your game for the berry glitch. How sneakily helpful of them. But yeah, after being robbed by both English Crystal and the English bonus disc, Americans wouldn't be able to obtain Celebi without trading until 2006, when Pokemon launched their Journey Across America events to celebrate their 10th anniversary. These events took place in various malls across America, and finally, after 7 years of waiting, would allow Americans to obtain Celebi in any of their Gen 3 games. Could you possibly imagine a mythical Pokemon dropping right now in Japan and we would have to wait until 2031 to get it here? Our TikTok instant gratification brains wouldn't be able to handle it. And don't worry, if you don't live in Japan and you feel like you haven't been screwed over enough times already, Pokemon Emerald doubled down on this with the Old Sea Map item. The Old Sea Map allows the player to access Faraway Island where Mew can be caught. Except, this item was never given away in any countries outside of Japan or Taiwan. The only possible way to get a Mew with the Old Sea Map in English Emerald is to use that 8-letter word that starts with an E that Pikachu will get really mad at me if I say it out loud. Or a Game Shark, I don't think they care about that anymore, like, that's pretty old. But even then, in most videos that I've seen online of people cheating to activate the Mew event, the part of the event where Mr. Briny scolds the captain for initially refusing to take the player to Faraway Island is usually cut out. But while Celebi and Mew might have been Japan's way of asserting dominance over the rest of the world, this next event was not released anywhere in the world. Some players may remember in Ruby and Sapphire, their particular house in Moss Deep City has a locked room in the back, with an old man who talks about how he enjoys watching young trainers battle. In Pokemon Emerald, the same old man is moved to a house in Sootopolis City, and he once again has a blocked off room in the back of his house. Apparently, in both instances, this blocked room was meant to host e-reader battles. Similar to the Mobile System GB in Gen 2, the e-reader was a device that could plug into your Game Boy Advance and scan codes to unlock bonus content. One planned piece of bonus content was for battles against the Game Freak staff to happen in these back rooms. No, not those back rooms. Though it is creepy that this old man is locking people in his basement to battle for his entertainment. Maybe this was scrapped for humanitarian reasons. But just like the Celebi event, eventually Game Freak would be able to make this event a reality in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where special QR codes can be scanned to access secret bases belonging to members of the Game Freak staff in Moss Deep City, the same place where the original e-reader room was located. Which just goes to show, if you ever have a good idea, just bury it for 12 years and dig it up when the technology is better. The last unreleased event from Gen 3 is, well, one that I actually talked about in a video 2 weeks ago. Great planning, me. You really know how to make a schedule. But yeah, it's Altering Cave from both Fire Red and Leaf Green and Emerald. In case you didn't watch that video on weird areas, here is a very quick synopsis. Basically, Altering Cave was an area designed for you to literally alter the Pokemon that you can encounter here by accessing the Mystery Gift feature. And every Pokemon that could have appeared here was yet another Johto Pokemon left out of both the Gen 3 Hoenn and Kanto games. Fortunately, all these Pokemon were made available through the Emerald Safari Zone or as Shadow Pokemon on XD Gale of Darkness. So in the end, you could still capture all of them, despite the Altering Cave content being completely scrapped. Okay, so with Gen 3 behind us, it's time for us to move on to arguably the stupidest unreleased event in all of Pokemon history, the Hall of Origin Arceus event. The Hall of Origin, as I'm sure many of you already know, is a secret area that exists above the Spear Pillar and is the resting place of Arceus. Similar to Darkrai and Shaman, originally it was intended for Arceus to be made available to the player if they brought an event item called the Azure Flute to the Spear Pillar. But this event was ultimately scrapped because Masuda said, it would have been too confusing for kids to figure out. I'm sorry. What? How is taking this item to Spear Pillar any more confusing than taking Oak's letter to the random rock on Route 224 or taking the member card to the house in Canalave City? Is it because the item description doesn't explicitly say, hey bro, take this to Spear Pillar or you can't use it, lol? Even then, you could have just put an article on Pokemon.com telling people where to take it. Scrapping the event entirely just seems like an extreme option. Honestly, I feel like it was more of an excuse to move Arceus' promotion into Heart Gold and Soul Silver since they already planned out the Sinjoh Ruins event there, and they could sell more copies of that game and have the event be closer aligned to Arceus' movie. Huzzah! More money for everybody. Except they can't say that in an interview because it looks bad. And similar to the Crystal Celebi event and the Masuda Secret Base battle, this too was fixed in a remake/re-release, as the Azure Flute will be given to players of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl who have a completed save file of Legends Arceus in their Switch's save data. And maybe, as an added bonus to apologize for making us wait 15 years, this Arceus was generously left unshiny locked. And then they gave it Healing Wish to make the battle 100 times more stressful. Backpedaling to Heart Gold and Soul Silver for a moment, these games also had event Pokemon that unlocked content in 2 different generations. A first for the Pokemon series, and something that I don't believe has been recreated since. The first example is the Shiny Crown Beast trio distributed to Heart Gold and Soul Silver as a tie-in for the Zoroark movie. But if this same trio was moved up to Pokemon Black and White, they would unlock the Zoroark event in Lost Lorn Forest. The second was the Celebi that triggers Giovanni's event in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which likewise activates the Zoro event if moved up to Black and White. The third event, however, was scrapped in its entirety. Like the Beast and Celebi, the Lock Capsule item was meant to be distributed to Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and then be moved to Black and White through a secret menu feature known as the Relocator, since items normally can't be moved from one generation to the next. Once the Lock Capsule was moved from Gen 4 to Gen 5, the player was meant to take it to Mr. Lock in Castelia City, who would open it revealing TM95 Snarl. The note inside the Lock Capsule was meant to say that this TM could only be entrusted to a powerful trainer, and it shouldn't fall into the hands of villains like Team Rocket. Ah yes, the key to saving the world from evil. A 55 base power move that drops special attack. Giovanni won't know what hit him. And finally, the last scrapped event, presumably, was AZ's Eternal Flower Floette. Now, unlike the rest of these examples, there actually isn't any leftover data hinting at an actual Floette event, but Floette's data does exist despite never being distributed. Unlike normal Floette, which have a base stat total of 371, this one is a base stat total of 551. Only 1 point shy of Florges, which, hey, makes sense if you've been alive for 3,000 years. AZ's Floette also has its own signature move, Light of Ruin, the strongest fairy-type attack that isn't a Z move. A power it presumably gained from the radiation of the ultimate weapon. Despite never being made obtainable, AZ's Floette was even given a unique Pokédex entry in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Maybe Game Freak held onto the idea of giving it away a generation later, like they ended up doing with the original color Magearna in Gen 8. But as soon as the Switch Pokemon games dropped, Eternal Flower Floette's data was scrubbed from the game. Oddly, it was given a new sprite in Pokemon Home though. So maybe, just maybe, we have a shot of seeing this thing again in Legends ZA. If there's any lesson I've learned from making this video, it's that anything can be resurrected. Hey, before I go, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for 250,000 subscribers. It has been an extremely long road to get here, but obviously I couldn't have done it without you guys, and I just wanted to say thank you. But yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like on this, subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you guys next time.